You're listening to the Waypoint TV Podcast Network, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Hunting boots are a critical component of any successful hunt. Whether walking a short distance to your blind or trudging miles through rugged terrain, your feet are carrying the load. Without the right boots, you could give up early and lose out on that trophy just over the ridge. At Midway USA, we make selecting boots for your next hunt easier. With just a few clicks of a mouse, you can decide on what's important, like waterproofing, insulation, size, width, and savings. For just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors, check out MidwayUSA.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Knives, machetes, saws, and shears, multi-tools, shovels, swords, axes, spears, hatchets, and tomahawks. If it cuts, snips, slices, or chops, Midway USA has it. Find great gift ideas in our huge selection of pocket knives and other everyday carry folding knives. Make a statement or create a family legacy with one of our top-of-the-line hunting knives. We've got a great selection of manual and electric sharpeners, too. For just about everything for the outdoors, check out MidwayUSA.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. Another week of podcasting. We are in the heart of deer season, so we figured we'd bring you a really good podcast and a really good refresher for you guys that haven't tuned in. You might want to go back, but this week is with Matt from Tails on Trails Tracking. Just a big refresher before the season. It's your boy East Coast Trev, and I'm joined with the madman himself. What's up, dude?
What up, buddy?
Oh my God, dude! It's season's here. Rutcation's right around the corner. Like, it just doesn't get better. It is kind of like funky warm out though. That's the only thing that kind of got me a little weird. And hopefully we can get a little break. I mean, tomorrow is one of those days on the calendar that you look forward to.
Yeah, I'm ready for October to be over. I hate October.
Do you really?
It's overrated.
I think it is too. I think it's one of those. We had talked about this not too long ago on how like October is just one of those things because everyone is so damn gung-ho and wants to be out hunting that they're out there. So then it makes it that much better, right? It's not like, I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm partially joking. I personally hate October because I'm never successful late October like you're supposed to, right? There's no denying, especially late October, like they start hitting the scrapes, they start daylighting more. It definitely, I mean, you see a ton of deer dying.
Right.
I'm just not the one killing them, right?
Just not, yeah.
I just can't wait. That first week in November is like my second week in November is when I look forward to. So I try like hell. I do all the things I think I should do, but it never works out for me. So let's just flip the calendar. Let's get to November.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in agreement with you. I took off today, which is November 1st. We'll start part of my rutcation, the first, second, third, whatever, and then the following week. Got a couple of days, the whole end of into November to just kind of plug away. And hopefully, I don't know, man, looking at the 10-day forecast, it looks like rain, and that's a little bit scary. I'm not a big fan.
I've got a couple buddies that opening day would be today in podcast land for landowners.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and like one of my buddies is like, I don't know, dude. Like, should I go? Friday, it's supposed to be like 61 degrees at first light, and I'm like, it's opening day, dude. You gotta go. Like, I don't care what it's calling for. You gotta go, you know. And I'm like, dude, now I don't have landowners November 1st, but like my opening day of rifle season, I can't tell you how many times I have sat in pouring rain or 75 degrees, like just the worst weather, right? You gotta go. It's opening day.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Like, Is it really going to be that bad?
No, it's landowners.
No, but it's going to be 61 degrees.
Oh, that's what I heard. I didn't really look because I got to work anyway, so I didn't really kind of.
Oh my gosh.
It is what it is.
It's a high of 78.
Yeah.
No.
Beach day, bud.
Well, I'm probably not going to go hunting. It's a west-southwest at 17 miles an hour. Well,
A little breezy.
I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Maybe save that PTO for a better day.
I might have to. I might actually come to work, go into work on Friday, and yeah, about that. Yeah, it's a little tough. But anyways, do you have any Killer's Corners?
I do.
You do. You got a couple?
Yeah, Brow Pow. My man Josh Brower. He got it done Friday morning. I was on stand that morning too, and he texted me. I don't know, it was like 7:30. Got it done on a nice 8-pointer.
Well, good for him.
Yeah,
Nothing good for him.
Love that kid.
Bow-minded Jake Hart. He shot a really nice buck. Congratulations to him. That was a really good one.
Living life at full draw.
Who else? Anybody else that we know? We're a little slow on the entries. So if you guys haven't already, make sure to get on over to the Outdoor Drive podcast or the Outdoor Drive group, form the Outdoor Drive podcast, and post in there your kill so that we can share it here on the Killer's Corner. It's a little slow start. I don't know what's going on, but make sure you're going to get over there and get that. Then you'll be featured on our Instagram and Facebook also. So, and you get a shout out here in the podcast. What's better than that? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So
I want to get shouted out on the podcast. That'd be great.
I know.
Highlight.
I was hoping that this was going to be like my luck of the podcast, but then I got the negative of the podcast because it's going to be 61 degrees at first light. But the bucks are still moving. I mean, but it just makes them move more at night, right? I mean, cameras are still kind of going off. Some bigger bucks were showing up, and then it kind of slowed and pattered off as it had gotten a little bit warmer, but
Yeah, it's coming. Next good cold snap, shit's going to be
Saturday morning.
Dude, last Saturday, man, I saw the biggest turkey in my life. I was sitting on an oak flat, and dude, he snuck in on me too. I'm kind of mad at myself, right? I didn't hear him coming. It was just a single lone tom, and it was so windy, I didn't hear him coming. And I looked up, he was at 27 yards broadside, and he had a rope-a-dope on him. And I tried to get on. I had to turn the camera on, get the bow and all that stuff, get a range on him, and he definitely spotted me. He didn't freak out and wig out and booger out of there, but he definitely when they lock it up, they give a couple little soft putts and just kind of change directions. He just changed directions, dude, and he was slinging that rope. I'm like, oh my god, I will be back for you, buddy. Just see you in April.
Well, at least you've been on the turkey game, man. You can't knock that. You've been on the turkey game.
Yeah,
it's good to know where they are.
Just dropping pins in the fall for the spring and dropping pins in the spring for the fall, right?
Yeah. It's so true, though, man. It's so true.
You gotta stay ahead of the curve.
Oh my god. Oh.
What's up?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think, the scrapes are starting to open up when we had that little cold front. Got a little warm, and it's kind of shutting things down. But, you still got to get out there and get after it. And it's going to be – I think we got a making of a good season as long as we can get this warm front out of here. Just a little couple-day warm front. I'd rather have a warm front in the end of October than the middle of November.
Yes.
We've been there before. That's a miserable ride. I don't care who you are, to be honest.
Just makes you not even want to be out there. When it's cold out, when you get into the rut and you get a nice cold morning, you just have that feeling anything can happen at any moment. When it's hot, it's still first, second week of November. It can happen.
Right.
It's just hard to get excited. It's just you're not feeling it.
Well, I just don't enjoy walking to the stand in my Durhams on November 1st.
Yeah.
Because that's virtually what's going to happen. And it's just, I don't know. It's not that rut feeling, and it just doesn't get you going. It doesn't make you want to get out of bed early. You know what I'm saying? It's a tough call, but you can't be negative. You can't kill them from the couch. I mean, they kill them in Georgia in 90-degree weather, right? I mean, so it can't get any worse.
Those are Georgia deer. They're used to it.
It's
Little
true.
Higgins deer.
Yeah,
The
it's
thing is,
true.
I think with the heat, man, like you can definitely get it done. I just feel like it shuts down a lot more daylight activity. So they do a
Oh,
lot of
100%. 100%.
night, and then they just hunker down in the day. I mean, they're still going to move. When it's like hardcore rut time, they're still going to go. They're going to cruise. They're going to look for does. Not as strong and not as much activity, but that's why you just kind of roll with it and figure it out. That's that killer is going to kill mentality, right? Like if you hit a heat wave, you got to figure out how to get it done in the heat. You get a rainy day, you got to figure out how to get it done in the rain. You got to be prepared for anything. So
That's
we will see what happens.
No, and everybody's been getting after it, been going down and going to town, and a lot of good deer dying. A lot of good deer. It was a good one. Couple around here in the southern part of the state. There was that real big one that kid had shot. A couple guys were after that one. Seeing a lot of good deer hit the ground. So, congratulations to all you guys. This podcast is one of those, and it's a refresher. If you guys missed out, it's episode 212. I believe it's. Let me see here. It's episode 212 and 211, or 211 and 212. That was the start of all that. The reading the sign after the shot and then reading the sign after the shot continued part 2. This is just a refresher, and we'll definitely get Matt on again. But it's super important, and a lot of people don't talk about it. Is that after the shot, right? That's a lot of the homework goes into, and all of your efforts and time goes into getting the shot. But nobody talks about after the shot and preparation and times of sitting. You see guys, they shoot deer and then they're trying to get in there 30 minutes later. It's like, if the deer's dead, he's going to continue to be dead. It's not like he's going anywhere. You got to take your time. So a lot of really good information for you guys, newer or even, we learned a ton of it and we've been hunting our whole lives. I mean, it's just to get in there and kind of really, don't let the emotions get the best of you, I guess is what it comes down to. So it was a really cool podcast. We'll get to the sponsors and kind of break off unless you got something good. Anything we were missing out on, Stevie?
Yeah, I'm sure there's something, but I can't think of it right now. So
All right.
it'll come to me in a little while.
All right. Well, make sure to get on over to Bowtech, bowtech.com.
Oh, I got one. Hold on. Don't forget to vote.
Oh, yes.
I think election day will be after this podcast before the next one, and just get out and vote. We got to get out there and vote. It's very important to vote.
Especially
I don't
this
know
year.
if the outdoor drive endorses a particular candidate or not, but it's definitely not Kamala. So I'm not gonna tell you before, but use your brain.
Did you? Hold on before we get cracking here. Did you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with?
Oh yeah, 100%. Got to do the weave.
You got to stay in your weave. Stay in your weave. I think what's funny is that whole podcast in my mind. Like, talk about being a human. Like, just conversation. It wasn't all about presidentials. It was about being a human, talking about UFC fighting, talking about, I think there was a lot of really good things and just regular conversations. And there was a lot of points that had been made that were great. I love when he calls them stupid people. Like, I'm totally going to use that. Like, yeah, they're just stupid people.
I'll tell you one that's even better, to be honest with you, is Trump on Theo Von's podcast.
Really?
Even more down to earth, even more regular Joe. Less political. Yeah. See, it's not as long, but definitely like you see the actual man and not the campaign trail,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, Joe wants to get Kamala on. So yeah. I think it's worth a listen. So
you go and vote Tuesday and you post your I voted today sticker on the outdoor drive. I'll show you on the Killer's Corner.
Because you did, right? Your killer's going to kill. So, all right, Bowtech, bowtecharchery.com. You guys go and check it out. Refuse to follow. If you guys haven't shot a Bowtech yet, you are missing out. We are glad that we made the switch and have shot Bowtech. We haven't really made one of them things eat yet. I'm just saying, nobody's let one eat. So, Anything's possible. Huntworth,
I didn't think of that.
yeah,
Now I
no,
got motivation to just shoot the
Just
next thing that walks by.
yeah, exactly. Huntworthgear.com. If you guys haven't gone out and got your heat boost yet, those seasons are coming. They're right around the corner. Even if you get into the Elkins for those mid seasons, we were talking about this the other day. I mean, you really don't need the heat boost. The heat boost is that late season thing, but Elkins and then lined properly with undergarments, you can get yourself pretty much through till the middle to end of November, unless you get a super cold snap. But
Elkins with a heat boost vest over the top of it.
and now that they have the heat boost sweater, the hoodie,
Oh, the grayling, yeah.
the grayling. I mean, you can
yeah.
literally get it anywhere. It has Stevie's rocking one right now on the brown.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another shameless plug. Go get yourself a grayling, what is it, ash brown hoodie or vest. Because I love mine, but I really want it in gray. So I'm hoping if people buy the ash brown one, they'll release it in other colors.
They're releasing another color.
Everybody go get an ash brown grayling hoodie. You get a vest while you're at it.
I
too.
wear mine everywhere, dude. Like
This is
seriously,
my go-to Friday night football game.
dude.
Get up.
I literally have another package right here. This is a package. This is all my orange. I got all my orange. So I bought an orange vest, which is I'm just opening it up now. It's like a fleece lined orange vest, or it's like fleece, super super nice. And then I got me a fleece hat in orange for the Orange Army. So you guys can get all that over there on Huntworth also. Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. The carbon sticks, they're just dropping things by the day. If you guys aren't subscribed and getting notifications of what's going on, I mean, backpacks in different colors. They got there's all kinds of crazy stuff.
I think the Maverick just dropped in a couple new colors now too.
Yep. Because they got it in Realtree and then they got it in tan, I think. Or gray. I don't know. There's a ton of them. So make sure to get on over there and check that stuff out if you have not already. LatitudeOutdoors.com. Use the promo code OutdoorDrive to save yourself some. Fourth Arrow Camera Arms, fourtharrowcameraarms.com. It is the only camera arm of the Outdoor Drive. We also use their tripods during turkey hunting season. Keep it smooth, keep it light, keep it Fourth Arrow. So always go and check those guys out, fourtharrow.com, and all the other stuff that they... Yeah, I did, actually. Thanks.
Pretty good.
Saddies, fatties. Turkey season's right around the corner. Goose season, duck season. You guys need loads. They will have a website very soon. So make sure to go and check those guys out. And then we have a new sponsor. So wait until next week's podcast, and you guys will know what's going on.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So go and check all of our sponsors out. Thank them. If you guys haven't already, make sure on iTunes to give us a 5-star review. Very important to us. Go like, subscribe, all of our social media platforms, and also YouTube for all of our videos. I know we've been kind of slacking, but we're kind of just getting into the nitty gritty of the season. So after the season, we'll start dropping a lot more stuff. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. And let's get Matt on the line.
Go vote.
The Outdoor Drive Podcast. All right, guys, we're back live in action, episode 267 with Matt Berger, Tales on Trails. Man, if you guys missed out before, definitely go back and listen. This is going to be like a part 3, but I figured just a really good refresher to have Matt on and kind of talk about the do's and the don'ts and having dog tracking. So no further ado, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, great, Trev. Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be back, and we're in on the cusp of the roof about ready to blow off for tracking season here, just like as we're coming into the rut and stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, has it already been pretty busy for yourself as far as tracks and?
Yeah, it's been I'm about 30% more than I was this time last year. I've been on 35 so far this year, which really isn't a lot compared to some of the seasoned veteran guys, but it's a decent amount, 35, and I have 36 scheduled for 9:30 tonight. So
Wow, that's awesome, man, and it's super cool because what do you think the success rate is as far as tracks found and not found?
national average for the national average for on lead tracking is about 35, about 40%.
Right.
So 60% of the time it doesn't end with a deer on the tailgate. But that's not necessarily because the deer aren't dead. It's largely because, not because the dog can't do the work or it's a bad tracking team. It's largely because the deer aren't dead.
Right.
But the national average for on lead is about 40%. You can get it up as high as 45%, but
I mean, that's still a lot, though, honestly, Matt, if you really think about it. I mean, 40%. And it's like you said, a lot of it is not always the dog or the tracker, the handler. It's poor placement, shot, so on and so forth, that deer may or may not be dead to be able to find it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, and that's the hard part to get hunters to understand that just because your arrow impacted a deer doesn't mean it's dead. And, high shoulders and back whacks are probably the highest percentage of calls trackers take. And those are not lethal hits. That's all non-lethal space. In fact, the two I were on today, I think, were high shoulders and back whacks. So,
Wow.
well, I take that back. I don't know about the first one. I have no idea what the first one was. Neither does the hunter. But the second one was certainly, I believe, to be a back whack, as we call it, a back whack, which is hitting the back straps above the spine. There is no such thing as no man land below the spine, if you want to get into that, but it doesn't exist. Full stop. But a whole lot of non-lethal shots out there.
I mean, Matt, we're already there. Let's fire right into it. As far as that goes, why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do. But I do want to get into the no man's land thing, but we'll get into that after. Just tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do, Matt.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, Matt Berger. I track deer with my bloodhound in southern Michigan, based out of Jackson County. This is our third year. Like I said, I've been on 30. I'll be on 36 tracks after tonight. Outside of tracking deer with my dog, I do hunt. I'm a customer service manager for a fire truck manufacturer. My personal boring life, but with great family, 2 grandkids, 1 on the way, 3 kids, lovely wife. Just a good old standard American family, man.
Yeah,
Great
there's
stuff
nothing
for
better
sure.
than that, though. There's nothing
No,
better. At least
I wouldn't change anything about it, bro.
no,
I wouldn't change
there's
anything about it. I'm a pretty
no.
simple man.
In the 3 years of doing this, like, it's obviously changed your life in many different ways of, because you're devoting a lot of time, to tracking. It's no more hunting. It's no more, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of it is you're about to go out at 9:30 at night to go do a track job. I mean, that's got to take a lot of time away from the family.
Yeah.
At Midway USA, we know the AR-15 is one of the most popular rifles in modern American history. Known for its modularity and widespread use, it's often considered essential to any gun collection. The essential things you need to run an AR-15 are usually always in stock during shortages, things like magazines and 5.56 ammo. Whether you're looking to buy a new AR-15 or buy parts for your modern sporting rifle, log on and for just about everything for the outdoors, shop MidwayUSA.com.
There are toys, and then there are freak-out-worthy toys. Toys that get big reactions like,
OMG, no way!
Or,
best present ever!
Or,
it's what I've always wanted.
For those toys, you need Walmart. They've got exclusives from major brands like Disney, Barbie, and Adventure Force that you can't find anywhere else. Toys that make kids jump for joy.
Thank you!
And make you a hero for giving them. Shop hundreds of exclusive toys.
Yes!
Welcome to your Walmart.
Boat Trader, America's largest boating marketplace, offering easy financing and over 100,000 boat listings to choose from. Sell, find, and finance new or used boats on America's largest boating marketplace. Visit BoatTrader.com to get started.
The 1911 is one of the most iconic firearms in history. Designed by John Browning, the 1911 was the standard issue sidearm of the U.S. military from 1911 to 1985. While Colt produced the original, almost every major firearm company has produced its own version. It's wildly revered for its reliability, crisp trigger, and is still a favorite for all types of shooters. Whether you're looking to buy or build a 1911 and just about everything for guns, log on to MidwayUSA.com.
It does, with the kids being all grown and out of the house and stuff, it's not as bad. But yeah, I mean, it does take time away a little bit. I mean, today we had a great fun day today. It was my first, talking about how it changed your life in no hunting. Today, October 27th was the first time I got in a deer stand. Beautiful morning in southern Michigan, just everything you wanted to be. It was my first time to stand. My phone was blowing up the whole time. My son-in-law shot a deer, shot a nice doe, got my daughter, the grandsons, and my wife, all this big family tracking job. Had the neighbor come over because that's just what we do. It was just a ton of fun, teaching my 3-year-old grandson how to track. I call him my little master tracker. But, and then I had to kind of hustle that process along because I had 4 guys I need to get back with and tracks to get on. So it does impact your life a little bit. It impacts, how much I'm able to get in the stand, but not in a bad way. I mean, I still love to hunt, but tracking deer is it's a compulsive disorder. It's addictive. You can enjoy more success tracking deer than you do hunting deer if you're talking about putting a deer on a tailgate. I kind of equate it to years ago, a friend of mine, got me into bird hunting a little bit. I was terrible. It didn't last long. I think we talked about it on episodes 211, 212, when we did that back to back. But,
yeah.
He says, look, Matt, he says, you go bird hunting, you see your quarry far more often than you do when you go deer hunting. You're far more successful. I'm like, that's a good point. But it didn't sway me. I mean, his point was valid, but it didn't sway me. Mm-hmm. I kind of equate to, deer tracking the same way. Although, it's not my deer and I'm not putting it on my tailgate, I get to enjoy in a lot of success for people who are pretty down. I mean, yep, that I get hugged Friday night when I think I sent you that picture of that great big one. That guy was so beside himself and couldn't believe it, and that's that's part of the addicting part. When you look at my Facebook page, there was one kid I tracked for a couple weeks ago, recovered his deer, young, just a great young kid, and that smile on his face meant more to me than any tip he could have offered. And he gave me an incredibly generous tip. I tried to refuse it and he wasn't having it, but it was a smile that meant as much as to that very generous tip. So you just meet a lot of great people and you turn, and when you can recover the deer and put it on the tailgate, you turn what is a pretty bad day for them into a great day. And that's a fun feeling. And when you can't, maybe you don't recover the deer, you can offer a lot of peace of mind because most of the time you can put together, there's enough pieces of the puzzle coupled with, experience that can paint a picture that deer's not likely dead. Sometimes you just know certainly it's not dead. I had one just the other night, around the corner from my house, and the deer was on. I said, Mark, your deer is not dead. That deer was on camera the very next morning. Wow. And I tracked that deer at night, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Actually, it was probably about 9 o'clock, but nonetheless, it was on camera the next morning. So, you can bring peace of mind. They can sleep better knowing, okay, I did everything I could, and my deer's not dead. So They don't have to worry about going to bed or living their life thinking that they just fed the coyote. So there's value in that too, and satisfaction from a tracker's perspective.
So do you think that there's a lot of people that will call you knowing that their deer's probably dead, or it's just they want a tracker to come in and just find the deer for them, like if they shoot a big deer or whatever, to like just have a dog there?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I had that happen during the youth season. The hunter thought it was a great hit, but he didn't have any blood immediately, and it was a pretty nice buck. And he said, "I just don't want to risk it. I just like to have you come down." What did I call it? I call those not verification tracks, but comfort tracks or whatever. Just
Mhm.
they just want somebody there just to make sure. So it does happen most of
Right.
the time. Most of the time, they really need help or are being just taking the appropriate precautions.
Right.
But it does happen. Hey, I just shot it. Just come. Just bring your dog for me. I'm not even going to track it. I just want you to come do it. But most of the time, people attempt to track their deer first, and a lot of times we'll recommend that. Sometimes they can go too far with it and really cause some problems. But
So what do you think that like one of the biggest mistakes that somebody can make as far as tracking goes, that like what do you think a tip is, or something that you could tell somebody that they've done too much to make their track a little bit more successful?
the very first thing, and there's a long list, okay, but the very first thing is they track too soon. You must heed the recommended wait times. If you know you have a marginal shot and you know it's a little back, if you think in your mind it's a little back, you're probably farther back than you think you are. And frankly, you don't have to be that far back before you're into liver, which needs this time of year, you need at least 12 hours um, to wait for the deer. You get that double lung, you're fine, go an hour, but if you know you're bad, if you know your shot is bad, you've got to wait. You can't go on a gut shot in 8 hours. I don't care. You just can't do it. You can't go on a liver shot at 8 hours this time of year. Maybe you can on October 1st, but on October 27th, you just can't.
Why do you
You know,
say it like that? Like what is the big difference between now and October or
so great
September?
question. No, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So, you know, and if we think about bucks, as we progress further deeper into the rut, the testosterone levels rise, and bucks become invincible. So, does maybe not as much, but testosterone levels rise. Then you mix that testosterone with adrenaline if you jump the deer. So now he's got heightened levels of testosterone already because he's ready to
Hmm.
fight everything that moves. And now you mix some adrenaline in that, your deer you'll blow the deer out of the county. So they become very, very invincible. Not to mention, deer, they're walking trauma units, if I can quote Kenny Mullins. Um, they're walking trauma units because they have high concentrations of vitamin K, which causes muscle wounds to clot very quickly. So that's why when they get hit a little bit high or back whack, high shoulder, the hunter says they had blood for about really great. It's always good blood. Is the phrase, or great blood. They had for 200 yards and it dried up because it clotted because of the high
Hmm.
concentration. Then they release endorphins, which has kind of the morphine effect. The endorphins, they numb the pain, and then they've got testosterone and adrenaline heightened levels. I call testosterone and adrenaline a survival serum. So they just become invincible the closer to the rut you get. And so much so that there was a chat going around in our private network chat about the longest liver hit they've seen live, and I think the number was 36 hours Liver hit deer, 36 hours still alive.
Wow, I'm speechless.
Yeah.
Because we would normally tell somebody, 8 hours, right? 12 hours on a liver hit, right? Like it's deadly. It's 100% deadly, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
100%. Yep. It's going to die.
but you have to shoot it, leave it, and get out of there. I mean,
Yep.
literally, if you keep bumping it and pushing it, it's just going to live. And you're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing it. What
Yeah,
is,
because every time you push it, it's adrenaline spikes, and it can
right?
go for another mile. I
So,
mean, literally.
all right. So there's two edges to this sword, right? In my opinion.
Yeah,
So like a liver hit. If I hit one in the liver, you want to leave it for that 12 hours, right? Like
yeah,
that's what it
yeah,
is, 12 hours. But
yeah.
you want to leave it. You don't want to track on it. What are those one-offs that you want to be on that deer right on pushing that deer to make it bleed?
Well, and it's not
Or
so
is there
much.
any?
Yeah, it's not so much to make it bleed, but one lungs. There's a widely accepted approach to one lung hits is just keep them moving. Not so much because they're going to bleed out, because it takes a ton of blood for them to die from blood loss, but more so if you keep them moving, they will expend oxygen quicker than they can produce it. You know what I mean? With one lung,
Yeah.
you're
Yep.
50% capacity. So if you keep them moving, you're just gonna, you know, they're in essence suffocate them or wear them down to the point where they're just too tired to move, and you can get a follow up shot. That is incredibly difficult to do with an on lead dog. That dog's got to be off lead and be able to run. You got to have a lot of property. I don't like that. That's just not my approach. We're not a rundown
Right.
team. There are people that do it here in Michigan. We're an off lead state, so we're allowed to do that. If you have the property
Okay.
permission and a trained dog, you can do that. They say high shoulders, kind of the same thing. I won't do it for, just if it's a high shoulder, it's non-lethal. There's that fine line or the argument. Are you now hunting the deer instead of tracking the deer?
Right. Right.
If it's going to survive one long, to me, that's a different story. It's likely going to die, although they can live a normal life on one long. But those are the commonly accepted scenarios where you might get on a deer right away and push it. Typically, you're going to want a dog to do that to be successful.
Right. To be successful, to keep pushing
Yep.
it. Now, all right. So you have liver shots. We'll call it 12 hours, right? Before
Mhm.
you even just shoot it and
Think
get
about
out
it.
of there.
Yep.
Then you have what do you think a gut shot would be? What would be your wait time on a gut shot?
We're going to start at 12 this time of year, and I'm going on the one tonight at 12 just because it's a weeknight and all of that. But,
Right.
12 to 24, depending on the time of year. We get closer to November, if we can push them out to, 20, 24 hours, we should on a
Right.
gut. The just because if it's dead now, that's fine. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay dead. If it's not dead, you're going to bump it. And every time you bump a deer, your chances of recovery decrease with or without a dog. So the wait times are crucial, man. And hopefully, if everything is right, you got a bad hit,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to get out of the stand and not pursue the deer. That deer typically will bed down. The guts, the liver hits, stuff like that are going to bed down not always, but commonly within 300 yards. And if you don't bump that deer, you're going to find it in that first wound bed, most generally, or commonly, maybe I should say. But if you bump it, who knows, man?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be 3 counties away. You never know.
It absolutely could, or if it's hurt bad enough and feeling bad enough, it could just go another 30 yards and lay back down.
Right.
I've had both scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I've had them bumped and they've, like I said, blown out of the county and bumped and bed down relatively quickly, and we are able to recover them.
Yeah. What would be another wait time? So like take us through some shots and what the wait time should be.
that the 12 to 24s are really the big one. So my common approach to wait times is, if you've got a double long and you're feeling really good, that heart double long, and you don't see the deer fall, just give it an hour, just 1 hour. Their dead deer don't go anywhere. Relax, man. Have a cup of coffee, whatever. Give it an hour. If you see it fall, I don't give it however much time you think you want to give it. If you see it go down, just to make sure it's down. But if you don't see it fall, give it an hour. If you start tracking it and things don't add up, get the hell out of there. Call somebody and reconsider. Liver 12 to 24 this time of year. My business card in the banner I had made says 8 to 12 hours for liver. Gut 12 to 24. Anything beyond that, you're either not going to recover it or you're going to find it dead fairly quickly. Most generally.
Yeah. What do you think the most commonly known mistake that somebody makes after shooting a deer?
Again, pursuing too soon.
Yeah.
Just not heeding the wait times, going too soon. The next thing, so I'll run through a few of them for you. Is probably number one is pursuing too soon. You've got to heed the wait times. The next one is, being tempted by the blood. And I guess they kind of go hand in hand. Not heeding the wait times, being tempted by the blood. You see blood, it just seduces you. You're going to go, even though you shouldn't. So even going out there and looking at the arrow before you should, that produces some bad habits. Here's the next really big one: grid searching. When you transition from tracking blood, let's say you heeded the wait times, okay, and you're tracking blood. There's a difference between tracking and searching. So when you're tracking blood, fine, keep tracking. You see blood, you can follow it. But when you transition from tracking blood to searching for blood, you need to stop. But commonly what happens is, at that point, they just continue to search. Then they call their buddies and they start this grid search, which really is, they start wandering around the woods looking for a body or more blood. And that really, can do a couple of things. It contaminates the line. It makes it really hard for a dog, because you're obliterating the track. The next thing is, you're probably bumping that deer unwittingly, assuming it's not dead. If you're out there too soon, well, I didn't see or hear it. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. You how many times have you looked down from your tree stand and see there's that doe standing there that you'd never heard coming in? You won't hear a deer sneaking off ahead of you 50, 60, 70, 100 yards. Now they know they're being pursued. Before you bump them, they didn't know what happened. They just know they feel bad. They want to lay down. What the hell's going on? You go too soon. Now they know they're being pursued. So now they can start taking evasive maneuvers, whether it's in, whatever that is, then they're going to lay down and watch their back track and then see you coming even farther away because they're onto you. They're looking for you now. So pursuing too soon and grid searching, taboo, taboo, taboo.
It never ends well in either of those, I think. You put yourself into bad situations.
Yeah, it does. I mean, an experienced dog, an experienced team on a fatally wounded deer can commonly work through grid searches, but it can cost you your deer. I mean, and it happens all the time. It happens all the time. I had one the other night. It was an absolutely liver shot deer. That deer was 100% dead. And they did a 5-man power search, and then the next morning they did a 2-man follow up, and I got out there that night, and we didn't stand a chance, and it was frustrating because I know the deer's dead, 100% dead.
And what would be the reason why you couldn't follow up and track with the dog?
So what happens is, well, like I said, if you bump the deer and it just goes and goes and goes, it just gets hard. But the grid search, what happens is, besides bumping the deer, inevitably the search party crosses that deer's path somewhere. remember we talked about in 211, 212, the deer, the dog is tracking what we refer to as a scent cocktail, which
Yep.
is a bunch of things: hair, dander, skin cells, disturbed earth, deer's breath, wound gases, fluids, blood if there is any. They don't need blood. Interdigital gland. We talked about that. That's the primary ingredient, that stress pheromone. But it's tracking all of these things. So when you have your search party out there, you invariably have crossed that deer's path probably more than once, because one of those lines you went on that doesn't have sign, the deer went down. They stay on path. So
Right.
you've crossed this deer's path. So now everywhere that you walk, you are now distributing that scent cocktail off your shoes, and the dog can smell all of that and sense all of that. So the dog you're creating false lines. The dog has to sort all of that out. And if it's too big, too wide, or too many people, it can just be, the dog just might not be able to do it. And then if you get too big, there are tactics we can use as trackers, to break through a grid search if the dog can't do it. What we do is we'll watch our handhelds, our GPS and stuff. We'll see that bowl of spaghetti start to emerge, and we're watching the dog bounce off the perimeters of the grid search, so we can identify the perimeters of the grid search, and then we can skirt that, take the dog and walk by watching our handheld, walk that perimeter and try to find the exit of that grid search, and the dog can pick up on it and go. But if you get it too big and too deep and too wide, it's hard to do that, especially in swamps and thick cover. And oh, by the way, the river's bordered over here. It can just be too much.
Does the dog lose a lot in water? Does water really slow the dog down?
Can, but I've been pretty not too much. Like I say, last night the dog went right to the river, right to the point where that deer. I know this deer crossed the river. I think it went up across bank and then come back, and she took us to those points. So there's creeks and drainage ditches and small rivers all over the place that the dogs cross, and it can be a problem, but most of the time the dogs can work it out. And the handler can identify that and work the banks on either side too until the dog can find it. So.
Well, and the reason I say that is you see like the old jail movies or whatever, and the guys would get in the water or whatever, like you see that. So I was just wondering if it's a tough thing, or they just try to find the exit on the other side and pick that back up, and then
and that's kind of what it is. And if the deer's died in the water upstream, all that scent floats, and the dog can get right to it. But I suppose if talking about the old Prison Break movies and the guys get in the creek, if they go far enough up or downstream would probably be better. If they go far enough, it probably would throw off the dog. But a deer, they'll do that.
Right.
They'll get in the stream and they'll walk up or down and then exit, or sometimes they'll go in, go up or down and exit the side they entered on, and you can largely work that out. They're not going for miles down the stream,
Right. Well, I just figured if I ever went to prison, I was just trying to figure out how I could get away. That's all.
Oh yeah. Just be sure that you stay in the water for a long time and then go downstream. Don't go upstream.
Okay. All right. That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as like when it comes to the dog and tracking, like what is the ideal situation? Like how do you go about it? Like from the minute that somebody calls you, take us kind of through it, and hopefully someone can learn from this as far as what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the first thing I do when I get the call is, I ask them to tell me about it. Okay, tell me about it. Now, here's what I'll tell you, hunters. If you call a tracker and a tracker says, tell me about it, what he's talking about is the shot. He doesn't want to know what time you got to your stand. We don't care how many deer you saw. I mean this all respectfully. I don't hear if it's, We don't care about any of that. All we care about is the shot, and from the shot is how far was the deer, what angle was the deer, how high were you? Are you shooting a crossbow or a vertical bow? What type of broadhead are you using? Did you see the arrow hit the deer? If you did, you're probably wrong, but where do you think you saw the arrow hit the deer?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're right. How did the deer react upon impact? How did the deer react as it was leaving the shot site? How far did you see the deer? What type of blood do you have? What's the color of the blood? Do you have blood? What other sign do you have? How far did you track the deer? Most people are going to track it for a while, and that's okay. We're going to ask you how long you waited before you tracked, looking to see, yeah, man, I got down at 30 minutes. Well, okay, you were too soon, but okay, if you're calling me, we know you were too soon. You needed that hour at least. And if you're calling me, it wasn't likely a double long hit. Now it could be. My son-in-law's doe this morning went 299 yards on a perfect double long. I was shocked. But so we're going to walk.
Did you bring the dog?
No, we didn't do dog. No, it was fine. There's plenty of blood. After about the first 100 yards, it was fine, but very trackable. But so I'm going to ask the hunter to tell me about the shot, and whatever questions I have, they don't answer in their story. Then I'll start asking the questions. We're going to ask them for pictures of the arrow if they recovered the arrow. That's one of the questions. Was it a pass-through? Yes or no? Do you have your arrow? Do you have pictures? Do you have pictures of the blood? So, that what I'd recommend to the hunters listening is approach every track, the start of every track, as if it's going to be a problem, because you never think it is until it is. Okay. And we get that all the time. No, I didn't take any pictures. I thought it was the dead deer. Yeah, I know. That's why, that, and that's true. That right. Particularly on liver shots, people always, they think the liver's farther back, or they think that their arrow was more forward than it really was, because the liver can look like a lung hit, but, so I recommend everybody approach the start of every track as if it is going to be a problem track, and take pictures of your arrow if your arrow is a pass through. At least four quality pictures that don't blur out when we zoom in on it. I want 3 pictures between each one of the veins. I want one of the broadhead, because we're looking for, is there damage to the broadhead, which could indicate a deflection or bone hit. Maybe it was a rock in the dirt, but if you're calling a tracker and your mechanical blades are wanked up, or even your fixed blades, you might have hit something hard, and it might have been in the deer. Right. So we want to see that. If there's anything on the shaft, we want to see that. Hair. People dismiss hair. If there's a hair on that shaft, we want to see it. Is it a white hair? Is it a white kinky curly hair? Is it a brown straight hair? Is it a gray hair with a black tip? All of that stuff can tell us something. It's one piece of the puzzle. So we want to see that stuff right away. So take those pictures before you even start tracking, because if it turns into a trouble track, you've got those pictures now. Take pictures of blood.
Midway USA brand product designers have one straightforward goal: develop high-quality, technically sound products and deliver them to customers at reasonable prices. If you are immersed in the shooting sports industry and pay close attention to every single detail, you know our products are built right and stand up to everyday use. Who has shooting mats and range bag systems to hunting clothing and just about everything for the outdoors? Log on and shop 24/7 with super fast shipping. MidwayUSA.com.
Hey everyone, this is Captain Steve Roger from Into the Blue TV. And as soon as I feel a little break from this heat, I know that hunting season's upon us. Actually, the first time I ever went hunting, a buddy took me. Wasn't my father or my grandfather. In fact, I took my father on his very first hunt. Well, Academy Sports and Outdoor Stores has everything to gear up for the field for less. Plus, you can shop a wide selection of ammo, shotguns, deer corn, rifle, feeder, game cameras, camo, and more from the brands you trust. Text Hunt 24 to 22369 to take $20 off a $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping.
Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
Whether you're just looking to stay warm during a hunt or need maximum concealment, the clothing you wear can make or break a hunt. At MidwayUSA.com, we understand hunting clothing has come a long way with more meticulously crafted camo patterns, advanced scent control technologies, and weatherproof options to withstand the elements. Hunters have to wait until their favorite season, but shouldn't wait on gear, which is why Midway USA offers super fast shipping. When you're ready for your next system, log on to MidwayUSA.com.
The blood can tell us something too. So I think you had a question coming. So.
Yeah, no, I did absolutely, because you started talking about different hairs, and I mean, personally, we would think, brown hairs, white hairs, or black hairs. You started naming off a bunch more. Name where those will go, and what kind of shot placement they are, with different hairs. Because I think that's super important, and a lot of people don't look for that. I look at point of contact. Always 100%. And, one of the big things that I do too, and I'm pretty big at it now, not as much as I was when I was younger, but I used to get yelled at for it a ton. But I wasn't allowed to leave my stand when I shot a deer. And then my dad would come and they'd be like, all right, where's that? So then I started taking pictures. When I shoot a deer, even by myself, I take a picture. Because your perception down there and up here are two different things. So I just take a picture in the tree stand, right? And I think we talked about that in 2 and 11 too.
Yeah, we did.
And that's I think that's kind of where I kind of started taking that from. But talk about the hairs and where the hairs can be found from different animals.
Yeah,
or different parts of animals.
Well, I'm no expert. I will tell you that hair is hard. I'm reading arrows is hard for me.
Yeah,
particularly when it comes to blood. There are some characteristics that are very easy, but if it's not those characteristics, and we can talk about them here in a minute because I think it's important. But if you talk about hair, if it's a brown hair, I don't freaking know, man. The deer's brown,
Yeah. at least you're in the zone.
Yeah. But listen, though, if you start getting white hair, so now we have to start thinking, where does white hair come from? Mm-hmm. The belly, the throat patch, the ear, inside the legs. Where is that white hair? So,
tail.
The tail. So now, okay, if you think about, the shape of the hair, I said kinky or curly or wavy or whatever, think now you start doing the mental gymnastics of, okay, where is a white kinky hair? Well, maybe the brisket, because it starts that curl. Maybe if it's long and wispy, well, guess what? Belly hair is kind of long and wispy. Maybe is it really short white hair? Well, that's inside of the thigh, or maybe the front leg or something. So that's one piece of the puzzle. And what I do is I try to take those and then piece it together with the hunter's account of the shot, and the angle of the deer. See, the slightest angle makes the biggest difference. You've got to know these angles. It was broadside. You know what? Very few deer are truly, legitimately broadside, but I get it. Slightly quartering is plenty enough of a side, but the slightest angle can make the biggest difference when you're talking about, one long liver or double long. It can make a huge difference. So when I take all of that and try to put it together and put together a plausible scenario, and it's not easy, when it comes to hair. There are some people who are masters of reading hair. I aspire to be a novice, at reading hair. It's for me, it's not easy, but when you couple that with the rest of the story, it can start to paint a picture.
Yeah, well, if you have certain hair in certain blood, now your process elimination is less than than what it was just hair, right? Like,
Yep. No, that's 100% right, Trav. Especially, we want to know that's where the distance and the angle and all of that comes in because
Mhm.
as trackers, we're thinking about the exit. We want to know where you hit the deer, of course, but we're asking about all of these angles and all these your heights, the
Mhm.
distance, because the farther it is, the flatter the trajectory. But we're trying to think, where did that arrow exit if the arrow passed through? And that's where you get your white hairs on exits most of the time,
Mhm.
unless you go underneath it and give it a big old haircut, shave it under low brisket or something like that. But you're getting those white hairs on exits, so we're really, really, really interested in the exit.
The exit is also important when you're blood tracking, right? Because
Yeah.
does the cavity fill up? Is it take a little bit before you can then get blood? Are are on exit? If it was quartering two, is it coming out in liver gut? Is it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's a super important thing, and I think that people kind of like sometimes they'll get too excited and not really. I've been on a ton of tracks where guys are like, uh yeah, he was broadside. And I'm like, why is there seeds on it? Like, why is there
Right.
seeds on the arrow? Well, he was broadside. Well, then you straight gut punched it then.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Maybe he was, but you didn't hit the behind the shoulder.
no, you didn't hit behind the shoulder. If he was 100% broadside and we have dark liver blood, well, we have a problem, right? Like
Right.
if it was quartering two and you have liver blood, well, that's a different story, right? Because now you
Yeah.
potentially could have hit something else with it that made it that, and I think
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
and hey, listen, Matt, when it comes down to it, it's all in a split second. So a lot of things can go wrong in a split
No,
second, and
that
you could get jacked up and excited and not know, but you got to kind of wean it down and kind of play these things back in part.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. I don't begrudge any hunter for not knowing for sure. If you don't know, we would rather you say you don't know. But
Right.
most of the time you didn't hit him behind his shoulder. I know that's where you were aiming. I know that's what your brain
Right.
saw because that's what you wanted to see, and that's where you were aiming.
Mhm.
But that is not where you hit it. Or and just taking all of these pieces of the puzzle and building that scenario, and that's very common. The deer commonly quartered more than the hunter thought it was. That is so.
Mhm.
I find it to be very common, and we can put that together. We can say, look, man, I get it, but the evidence. Steve said it in 212, I think. The sign don't lie.
Sign don't lie.
The sign don't lie. If you can have two types of blood. You can have. I had it this year. I had muscle blood in lung blood, and I started to get like, man, I don't know. I look at this big old clot. This is muscle blood. And I dropped the lead on the dog, and the hunter says, I think he's on a deer. I think he's on a deer. We were in the scent pool. She kept going around and around and around. I'm possessed by this massive clot, and the damn deer was 30 yards away, dead as a doornail. But we had two types of blood because the arrow went in, deflected, like we talked about. He hit the bone, almost about where the scapula and the humerus come together. He crushed that. That arrow deflected and went straight down and exited right out the brisket. Well, there's a big old thick muscle, lining that brisket,
Right.
and that was the muscle blood that was clotting. But that deer was dead as a doornail, one lung, which surprised me a little bit. But that it one lung. But they jumped it. They jumped it. They
Oh.
tracked it, hour and a half or whatever later and jumped it. So that's probably what did it in. So yeah, it's not easy, but it's just all of those details matter and create scenarios.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, every single one is a different track. You never know. You can't go in there assuming, right? Because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me because you don't know what's to come. If you say, "Oh, well, this happened on that track." Well, that's not that track, right? Because you
Yeah.
have to now take in the scenario. Is he going downhill? Is he going uphill? What he do? How was he quarter? Like, okay, yeah, I've seen this on other tracks, but every animal's different. Every animal's
Well,
adrenaline is different. You know, like
absolutely right. And I'll give you an example of going into a track with a predisposed outcome. Last year it cost me a deer. It cost the hunter a deer because of she actually found it 2 days later, I think. But everything she told me, I just had it in my head. Okay, this deer isn't dead, but whatever. We'll go track it. But it was, so I gave up too soon because I just knew in my head it wasn't dead. The deer was 50 yards ahead of us. Big painful lesson for me there. You can't, and it's hard. You have, just like hunters have to resist pursuing blood, trackers have to resist going into a track with a predisposed plan. Now, there are some that are going to be pretty damn obvious, it's
right,
like,
right.
your deer's not dead, but the one that I had, that example I just gave you,
Yeah.
I extrapolated it into, I needed to give it a better chance. And I went in predisposed and we left it there in the woods. So you can't, you really got to be very, very, very cautious about that. You can't jump to it.
At what point is it enough? At what point is it a dead track?
Well, again, the scenario will tell you, and the more seasoned the dog, the quicker the dog will, in its demeanor and behavior, and the more in tune you are with your dog, you'll know that earlier in the track. Because remember, and we haven't talked about this tonight yet, but in 211 and 212 we did. What the primary ingredient in that scent cocktail is the interdigital gland that produces the stress pheromones. So the declining health pheromone. So as long as that declining health pheromone in the deer is hit fatally, it continues to emit that declining health pheromone, and the dog will continue to generally stay focused on the track because that's it believes that deer is dead. When that deer stops, it's a back whack or a high shoulder or something, and the deer gets 200-300 yards away. Maybe it bedded down, maybe it stood there and it relaxed. It realizes it's not going to die. That stress pheromone goes away. So the dog will then start to act differently. You can tell when you are in tune with your dog. So it's all all of the pieces of the puzzle together, but really, what is your dog telling you? Some dogs will just refuse to track. They'll just say, I'm done. They'll look at you. Some will sit down. Some just won't do it.
Really?
Yeah. So I've heard plenty of stories of trackers. Yeah, their dog just, once they decide the deer's not dead, they just won't do it. Brew, we're over here on the couch. She'll keep going. She'll track because I'm asking her to track, and she's a hound dog and she loves to track things. But I can tell by her demeanor, just because it's what I call helter skelter tracking. She'll track along, and she'll generally, when she likes it, it's very purposeful. It's very linear with some problem solving. We're advancing in one direction constantly. When the deer's not dead, she'll get to a point. She'll track it typically through the known path where the hunter's tracked and had blood. We'll whiz through that the known line pretty good, and then when she decides that it's not dead, or the scent changes and she's having a hard, she goes over here, and then becomes this bit of a mess, and different of a mess than when she's problem solving a scent pool or a grid search. That is very focused for her. If it's not a dead deer, she'll start jumping on hot lines and going after, live deer and stuff like that. So that's kind of a tell. And then that might be the final confirmation, but all the while, typically throughout that line, starting with the hunter interview, and then the evidence that we're seeing throughout the line, the blood type and stuff like that, all of that comes together to help you make your decision. Okay, we'll talk about it with the hunter, and say, look, I don't think your deer is dead. I mean, what do you think? Are you satisfied? Yeah, I agree with you, or whatever the case may be. Or, hey, look, I think your deer is dead. We just need to stay with this. She likes this line. It can go both ways,
What's like the longest track that you've ever had to be on with success?
2 miles.
Really?
2 miles ground covered. That was this year. That was one of my all-time greatest tracks this year. It was a night track. It was on state land, and they had blood for a couple hundred yards. Hunter wasn't sure where he hit the deer, but they had certainly gut matter in some of the blood, so we knew it was a dead deer. And she tracked through the known line pretty good, with some problem solving. There was a lot of terrain, and it was at night, so the thermals were doing what thermals do, and so she, up and down and pooling and stuff. So she had to continue to work through that stuff, but there was no point, Trev, on that line that I thought she was off. I knew that entire line that she was on that deer, and it was slow and methodical, and it was a great, great moment. And it was a patience tester. I just stood back and watched her do her thing, and she would circle and circle and circle, kept coming back to the spot, and then she would, advance at 10 yards, and the same thing. It was just very, very slow and methodical. And the last 100 yards, we about called the track. And I'm talking about it with a hunter, and because we got it came to the state land, came up to our power company property, and I'm like, can we go? And yeah, okay, but we about called it because we were deep into the track. I said, but look, I said, she's pulling hard, her intensity picked up, her focus picked up. I says, as long as we can go, let's just go for a little bit more, because she really wants to go. And it wasn't much longer. Boom, we started seeing blood, and it wasn't another 60 or so yards after that. I turned around to the hunter and asked him if he had his gutting knife. The deer had burned under. And it was in some autumn olives up in there on the edge of this field, so he couldn't see in there. And I bent down and looked in, because the dog went in there and said, "You got your gutting knife?" And he about flipped. But it was 2 miles of ground covered, but that included the circles and the loops that we did. It wasn't
of course,
the girl flies, but it was a hell of a long way. That was just a fantastic track, just some fantastic dog work, and I was so proud.
Is that your typical line? Do you got your gut knife?
Yeah, no, I like to, if the hunters aren't right there with me, if they're behind me, I'll say, "Hey man, I got some blood up here. Come mark the blood," or say, "Hey, I found another wound bed. Only this time the deer's still in it." Or so I like to game them a little bit. So hunters, if you're listening,
Well, you normally have them in a pretty sensitive situation, right? So like they're at your beck and call at that point, right? Like you could always mess with them.
I will tell you what, I've had some of the greatest reactions, and I'll text you the video, Trev, because I want you to see it. But it was our second recovery of the season, the week October 2nd or something, I don't know. A guy just vests his life into habitat management, and he just is all about deer hunting, and has this beautiful property, and just works so hard at it. And he shot his target buck. It was, so couldn't find it. Search, he and his wife and his friend in their lab looked for it the night before, just a little bit. So I come out there, and we about called that track too, because my dog kept going off on hot lines, and I'm like, man, I don't know if your deer's dead. I said, let's go back, and we talked about it. He said something. I'm like, man, no, I'm not convinced. We have got to go back. Let's go back to last blood again. So I went back, and she acted differently. She took a different line. So she was off lead, and I'm watching her, and she was probably 40, 50 yards away, and I saw her get her, what I call her tracking swagger on, going a way we hadn't gone before. I go, oh, I kind of like that. So I got over right behind her and got on her line, looking at my handheld, so I knew where she was. And sure enough, I found blood. I go, cool. Told the hunters, I got blood right here. So I just let her go, and I just followed her. And there was this big downfall. She went around the downfall. I come around, and there was this buck. Well, I'd been marking the blood and stuff with some toilet paper, tissue, and the hunter and his friend were way behind me, and I hollered at him. I said, "Hey, I'm out of tissue. Can you come mark this blood for me?" So, oh yeah, where are you? I'm like, I'm right here. So they come up, and I got my phone out, and I started videoing as I'm standing over top of the deer, and they're coming up. He's mumbling something, and all of a sudden his eyes got big, and he starts blurting out obscenities, the mother of all obscenities, when he saw his deer. And it was one of the more emotional. He was an older guy, just a great guy, and it was just one of those fun moments. And I said, oh yeah, you're out of tissue. You said you're out of tissue. I said, yeah, I'm out of tissue.
Yeah, because I'm at the end of the trail. What do you mean?
Yeah, but I'll text you that link. I had it on my Facebook page for a while.
Yeah.
I asked him permission if I could post that. He said yes. And he's a businessman, so construction company. So he called me a couple of weeks ago and said, "Hey, would you mind taking that down now? People who wanted to see it have seen it. Being a business guy in that language." And I gave an explicit language alert and everything. But it was a powerful moment. That guy worked his years and years and years for that moment, and he thought he blew it because he was done. He was ready to call the track, and it's what he says when I'm recording him. And then when he realized he got the buck he'd been after, and it was a bird at 168, so it was a pretty nice buck, and he was overcome with it. So it was just a great moment. Like I said, I'll text you the video.
That's and that's the thing too, honestly, Matt, is that you're the guy. I mean, like, you're there to put somebody back on their deer and put it on the tailgate. Like, you're that connecting factor for somebody. There has to be some type of great feeling when that all comes together for you.
It is, and another example of that very same thing was Friday night, the one I sent you a picture of today.
Yeah.
That great big, kickers and stickers and double drops, and biggest deer I ever recovered. That was a young guy, great kid, and they tracked that deer. They jumped that deer. Well, after they jumped that deer, it went another 600 yards. So and it bedded down within 200. I think probably a little less than that, but let's say right around 200. They jumped it, and it was gone. Well, they lost blood, as is so typical from after it left the wound bed. I don't think they had any blood after the wound bed, but they were convinced that deer went right down the edge of the woods and crossed the road, because they went out where they thought it was going and looked in the field across the road, and there's prints right here. So they were telling me the deer went over here, it's over there. I'm like, okay, I want to start at the hit site anyway. So we always start at the hit site, and we worked through it and got to the wound bed. And sure enough, she went right past that wound bed. And then all of a sudden she takes a hard right turn. She goes out into this open field. And I stopped her. I said, hey, do we have permission to be here? He says, no, I didn't think it went this way. I'm like, well, you better go get permission, because the house is right up there. This is 10 o'clock at night. That kid runs across this alfalfa field. I heard him beat on the door. I'm like, holy crap. He beat on the door. Nice guy. The guy gave me permission. He came back, within 10 minutes, we were back on the line, and probably within another 10 or 15 minutes, we were standing over the deer. But that's another example where, they would have never gone the way that deer went. They would have been looking across the road in a different spot because they just knew in their minds the deer went there, and it took this right-hand turn. I'll send you the video to that one too. When the guy was talking, and you kind of you feel free to share them if you want to, because it might help a hunter. You can't assume anything, but that track line was, there was really some super dense CRP, so she really had to, reset and stuff in there. But once she got to that wound bed, she was on a freaking string, dude. That track line is just like that to that deer for that 600 yards from that point. But that was funny too, because that hunter stayed right with me pretty good. And we get across this clover field, across the property owner's driveway, kind of through his yard a little bit. It crosses the road into corn stubble, into this this thick garbagey crap that we all love so much for deer hunting. We dipped into that, and it's really thick, and she started to get really hot and pulling really hard, and that's typically a sign that she's on a live deer. But I'm like, well, we just got to keep going. And the hunter stayed with me, and pretty soon I could start to see the brown mound emerge. At night I had my headlight on, and all of a sudden that hunter was so funny. Is that him? Is that him? Is that him? Is that him? I go, that's him, man. And he was a stud. But it was just a great moment, man.
What did that deer green score at?
I don't know. I got to ask him if he would to send me, because I'm sure he's going to have it scored, or if he doesn't, I'm going to tell him to get it scored. But I bet you that is mid 170s. I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what I would have called.
I don't know, but it's huge.
I'd say somewhere in that one. I thought 170s, 180s. I mean, he's an absolute giant. Absolute giant.
He's a stud. He'd be a stud for about anywhere, but for Michigan, that bugger's a monster.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely is. Absolute giant. Well, Matt, is there anything that you want to leave the guests with, as far as with the season really starting to come underway and things starting to get going? Testosterone is building, adrenaline is building, and guys are getting out there and flinging arrows. What do you want to leave the guests with?
Yeah, here's what I want to leave everybody with. Stay the hell away from the shoulder.
Hey, it's Chuck from the Survival and Basic Badass podcast, and I just came from my local Academy Sports and Outdoor store. Academy Sports and Outdoors has the trusted brands you need for rifle season. Gear up with a wide selection of rifles, ammo, scopes, deer corn, and camo clothing at low prices every day. Plus, don't miss limited time hot deals on Mossberg rifles going on now. Shop in-store or visit us at academy.com to enjoy free ship to store and easy pickup. As always, shop with confidence at Academy and know you're getting the best prices with our everyday price match guarantee. Need a hunting license? Stop by your local Academy today. Get everything for your next hunt at Academy Sports and Outdoors, and have fun out there.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Stay away from the shoulders. Shoulder shots suck. Shoulder shots. If you hit the scapula, there's no lethal space behind the scapula. Shoulder shots are bad. Hold back from the shoulder. Wait times matter. Heed wait times. 1 hour for double lung, if that's what you think you got. 12 to 24. Right now, let's just say 12 hours for a liver. 12 to 24 for gut. If that's what the evidence says you have, please wait heed those wait times. If you transition from tracking blood to searching for blood, call somebody. Call your tracker. Even if you're in a state that doesn't allow tracking, call somebody. Call a tracker in another state for help, for a recommendation. It doesn't matter. We can help you with advice. Just over the phone. We don't necessarily have to be there, but call somebody when you transition from tracking blood to searching for blood. If you find a wound bed, stop and call a tracker. If you jump the deer, stop and call a tracker. That's another thing. It's very, very frustrating to trackers when they say, "Yeah, I jumped him," and then they keep pursuing the deer. Well, frickin' stop doing that. If you jump him once, that's not a big. It sucks, but maybe it won't be a big deal if you get out of there because he'll bed down again.
Right.
If you keep going, he ain't dead. You ain't gonna catch him. All you're doing is pushing him. So if you jump the deer, stop and call your tracker. Those are some things. Make sure your equipment is tuned. Make sure just be responsible. No frontal shots. Do not take frontal shots, quartering shots, Q2 shots, quartering towards. Please avoid them. When a hunter says it's the only shot I had, a tracker hears, I didn't have a shot, but I sent one anyway. The only shot I had doesn't mean you had a
Was
shot.
a good one.
It doesn't mean it was a good one. Yeah. So, those are just some things that I would leave people with, and just know that it's about ready to blow up. It's already started. So if you are in a state that has that allows tracking dogs, patience is key for your shot selection, for your wait times, for the whole tracking process, and when it comes to getting a hold of a tracker. In Michigan, there's one tracker for every 2,500 hunters. One tracker for every. So it's really hard. It can be really hard for us to keep up with all the calls. So just patience is key, man.
So here in Connecticut, we finally have our first tracking dog.
You do?
Yeah. So we had a gentleman. He actually has a bloodhound, just like yours. And they finally allowed. He's got special licensing. He or she. I can't remember if the dog is he or she, but they have special licensing, and they allow him to track. He's that's the only dog. So it's a start in the right direction. We're allowed drones now. We're allowed drones, so that's super huge.
You are allowed drones.
Yep, thermal drones. So we have a couple. We have a couple of services that are drones, and then the dog. There's one bloodhound that's now licensed in the state of Connecticut to be able to track, which is huge. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. I feel
it is a step in the right direction. Hopefully they can get there across the board, and the United Blood Trackers and the ABTA, the American Blood Trackers, Kenny knows guys at the ABTA and others at the UBT, United Blood Tracker. They can help with approaching the legislators and things like that. I know it's probably a bit of a political environment out there, I would guess.
It gets a little weird.
But it's a conservation tool. So this will I'll tell you, Trev. If we can start to done responsibly, it's a conservation tool. The Michigan or the Michigan Deer Tracking Network. That's the network I'm a member of. Last year, recovered 1,097 animals. There were 1,084 deer, 11 bear, and 2 elk. Whatever that math comes out to. So over 1,000 animals that was recovered by just our network. So it's a conservation tool when done responsibly and done with trained tracking dogs. And I'll tell you, I'm glad you have drones, but in early October, drones are really limited. They don't really shine until the vegetation is off and the temperatures are drop. Where a dog's good all the time.
All year. Yeah. I guess if we start tracking, I might have to get another dog. I might just have to jump in on the curve here because.
Be careful, dude, because it's addicting. Now it'd be great content for you. It'd be great content. Get yourself your GoPro, mount it on a chest rig and go. But it's going to cost you time in your tree stand too.
I know but. You know what? It's worth it though. Like you said, Matt, and enjoying it and helping people put things on the tailgate and kind of go above and beyond. I mean, that's really what it's about, right? I mean, those days of killing deer. I mean, if you look around the room, it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta. It's for the other hunters, and especially we owe it to those deer. As outdoorsmen and conservationists, we owe it to those animals to at least go above and beyond. So. It's super awesome. I love watching and seeing pictures, and now giants and everything else you got going on, Matt. It's super awesome. Why don't you tell everybody, man, what drives you outdoors, Matt? Since we're on the subject.
Well, that's just it, man. My new, tracking and getting those responses that we talked about, seeing those smiles, bringing that satisfaction of either recovering their buck of a lifetime or the satisfaction of knowing, bringing closure to a hunt. That's what's driving me these days, man. You know what else is driving me is my grandkids. My son-in-law shot that doe this morning, and I got my 3-year-old grandson and my 18, 19-month-old grandson out there, and my 3.5-year-old is just a little tracking machine. So just bringing those guys along and seeing them get excited about being outdoors and hunting. And Arlo kept asking Dad after we found the deer, when can we open it? What he means was field dress the deer.
Yeah.
We refer to it as, can we open it now? It was just, those are the kinds of things that are just special moments, and that's what's driving me today, man.
I love it, Matt. Thanks again for joining us as always. It won't be the last time. We love having you on and kind of pushing that awareness. I know Steve wasn't able to join us, and I know he's really looking forward to it. So we have to circle back and have you on before the end of the season's over and tell some stories. And it's always good to have you on, Matt. And we wish you the best of luck this season. And once again, thanks for jumping on. And everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.